I have had it. I am done. If woke Hollywood makes another movie that confuses gender, cultural narratives, whatever, I am through. That is something I would have said about a year ago on this channel, but since then, I have completely changed my tune. In fact, bring on the woke movies, try to confuse me about gender, and rewrite those historical narratives. Because when a culture creates opposition, the free market doesn't die, it adapts. And that's what we're here to talk about today with the rise of Angel Studios. Hollywood is dead, not because they ran out of money, because that's not true, not because they ran out of talent, because that's definitely not true, but because audiences feel betrayed. Call me Cynthia Erivo the way I got betrayed. Our morals, our values, our beliefs, all thrown out the window for the sake of some board members in Burbank coming up with movies on a whim. And that's the thing about relationships and betrayal. When you feel betrayed, that completely destroys the relationship. Basically, they're saying, I don't care enough about you to respect your values, your morals, your beliefs. And that's where we are. And the breakup is already happening. A recent Gallup poll said that 31% of Americans think positively about the film industry. Guys, 31%. That is less than a third of the population thinks positively about the film industry. You can see that in the franchise fatigue. I'm looking at you, Mandalorian and Grogu. And more than anything, that's reflected in what audiences are choosing to watch instead. And that brings us to this studio, depending on who you ask, who is either the future of filmmaking or is a Christian propaganda machine. Let's talk about that. Maybe you haven't heard of this controversy before, or maybe you live under a rock, which good for you if you do, I envy you. If you don't know, I'm going to tell you right now just a little bit about the backstory of this controversy between Angel Studios and the general population. If you are one of those people who knows, you can skip a few minutes ahead. I was on Reddit and I was finding all these comments about Angel Studios. Basically, nothing big has happened, but Angel Studios has grown so big that people can't ignore the power of the studio anymore. Here's what one Redditor said that I thought really summed up the conversation. I'm Christian and I heavily dislike them. I've only seen a few that I know of, but they are not good and also felt very fake, if that makes sense. I wasn't thinking or feeling anything about God. It was just, yep, that's what a generic Christian/conservative movie looks like. Another creator on YouTube, which I think also sums up the general narrative behind this controversy on YouTube, his name is actually Andrew, who has about 19,000 subscribers. He made a video basically explaining why Angel Studios is a propaganda machine. And if you want a full picture of that take, go watch his video. I don't agree with him, but I still support watching YouTubers, of course. His whole thesis is that Angel Studios is a propaganda machine catering to an audience who wants those messages affirmed and is just feeding off of that audience to get money out of them. Yes, it's capitalism. That's kind of how capitalism works. The free market responds to a need and fulfills that need with whatever that need is. And it's definitely, as in Angel Studios, is benefiting from the right, the far right. Now, to be honest, this creator seems very far left, so I think he has a pretty strong bias against anything that is far right to begin with, and he's ignoring the fact that Hollywood also does a similar thing to its audience and creates movies that typically affirm the far left and expect us to affirm it as well. I'm looking at you, Amelia Perez. Don't watch that movie. And I sat here thinking, if they had noticed something about these Angel Studio films, it would completely destroy the narrative behind this controversy. We'll get to that in a little bit. So first, let's talk about the movie that changed my mind, David. Now, David came out a couple of months ago. If you missed it, it's a retelling of David and Goliath, like from the Bible, and here's where it gets interesting. It's actually an understanding of how storytelling works, not just for kids because it was a kids movie, but just in general. And here's the part that the Christian propaganda crowd probably wouldn't admit. The film opens and David is a shepherd, the shepherd who loves his sheep and sings to them. It's also a musical, by the way, very good soundtrack. It felt a little bit like Wicked, except the film actually looked good. They actually turned up the contrast and whatnot. Come on, Wicked, get your game together. He is a kid with a sling and he is in charge of a flock and is very ordinary. This is not a propaganda film because propaganda doesn't waste screen time making you feel small. What the filmmaker understood and what Hollywood has forgotten is that audiences don't connect the messages, they connect to people. David the character earns his moment because they earned the setup. And by the time he faces Goliath, you're not watching a Bible story, you're watching a person who's been told their entire life that they are worthless, that they don't measure up, but they actually overcame those odds and did something incredible. Guys, those are the building blocks of a perfect story. One of the best stories, one that we are always attracted to. That's why this movie worked. This isn't just a Christian story, it's a human story. And that's a great blockbuster story as well, and that's why it works. And that's kind of what we talk about on this channel. So again, if you want to know how I work, the transition there was crazy, you should subscribe to this channel and like this video. Subscribing helps you keep in the know of all the videos I release weekly about this time every single week. Now here's the number that should terrify every executive in Hollywood. $80.2 billion. That is how much David made domestically, not even internationally, just domestically. Now here's the other number, which is shocking to me. Now remember, if you went to go watch this movie, you'll probably remember it had great animation, pretty good story, a really stacked cast. Guys, it took $6 million to make this movie. That is the craft budget of a Disney Plus show these days. That is insane. It made its money back just domestically. And how did it do this? This is the part that nobody's talking about. Angel Studios doesn't pick what gets made. The audience does. Now, if you don't know anything about Angel Studios, here's kind of a gist on how it works. Basically, a filmmaker brings a project to Angel Studios. They do what they call a torch. That torch is basically a preview of what they're going to make. That preview gets sent to the entire guild, which is all the subscribers of Angel Studios, and they can watch that and rate it. If that torch gets a big enough rating, it will go on to production. Now, sometimes there are movies that go on that platform that were released back in, 1980. So they're already out and have been watched many times. Those movies also get previewed on Angel. People can vote on them, and only those ones that got voted in get to be on the studio platform. Now, the significance of this is that the consumer picks what's on the platform, not the producer. Nobody else does this, and that's incredible to me for a few reasons. For 70 years, Hollywood has operated on the reverse. A small group of executives, overwhelmingly in one little city, aka literally Los Angeles, attending the same parties, reading the same Twitter feeds, they're the ones picking all the content for the entire United States and honestly, the world. And for a long time, nobody's really pushed back until now. And now we have a great second option that is us focused and not them focused. I'm pointing at you, but them. Not you. You're with me. I get it if you're one of those people who thinks that Angel Studios is bad because it only has one worldview that it operates from. It's not exactly inclusive like a lot of other studios are. But at the same time, there's a very large audience of people who just want content that affirms their values and beliefs. And finally, people have that. That's how the free market works. All based around one concept. Audience choice. Here's another number that should shock you, 2.2 million. That is how many subscribers Angel Studios have. That's 2.2 million people, families probably. That's not just individuals. That is probably one person with an account for an entire family. That is how many people feel betrayed by Hollywood and have wanted an alternative for years. Not stories that lecture them on what they should believe, not stories that mock their values, but stories that treat their moral framework as valid. Hollywood stopped making those stories, so the free market made them instead. The studio isn't a Christian propaganda machine because if it were, it would be forcing you to think a certain way. Most of their films are aligned with the Christian and Mormon worldview, but they're not forcing you to believe that. Guys, there's a very big difference between you have to do this and I'm making something that you already agree with. If you don't agree with it, I can see how you feel like it's being forced down your throat, but it's not. We all need to learn that maybe the problem isn't with you, it's actually with me. That's neither here nor there. Here's some examples that make this more real to understand why Hollywood and Angel Studios are in such conflict and why Angel actually might be winning this battle. Hollywood makes movies like Snow White, who rewrote the entire original narrative. Angel Studios made films like Cabrini, who showcase the true untold stories of people. Hollywood tries to stay away from religion so as to not side with one worldview. Angel Studios chose the Christian worldview to honor their core audience. Hollywood creates whatever content it wants with whatever messages it wants. Angel Studios not only gives their audience the choice of what content to make, but it also pitches content that aligns with their core beliefs. So hear me when I say this. Angel Studios is a brilliant concept with flaws that, like every other company, I think we just need to give it some grace and commend it where it gets it right. So come in a little bit closer, just a little bit more. Okay, that's far enough. I'm not saying every Angel Studios film is a masterpiece, because if it were, I would be lying. I'm not saying that the model is perfect, because definitely not true either. Some of the projects miss, and some of their marketing language makes me cringe, I'll admit that. What I am saying is that the structure is correct. They understand their audience. When a culture creates opposition, the free market doesn't die, it adapts. And that is exactly what's happening here. The free market didn't disappear. Angel Studios found a home with the right audience. That is what's happening here. I think this controversy is a little blown out of proportion. And here's where I'm going to lose some of you, and that's totally fine. Thank you for watching today. I don't want Hollywood to fail. I want Hollywood to learn from this mistake, because I think that Angel Studios figured out the Christian thing, and it's not necessarily just a conservative thing, it's a storytelling thing. That's what they've really figured out. Audiences don't need to agree with every value in a film. I can enjoy a film if it isn't Christian. That's exactly how that works. But they need to feel like the people making the film respect the fact that they have values. I don't want to feel like I'm just being told, no, you can't believe this way. What you believe is wrong and you need to change your worldview. No. Simply no. And that's the whole secret. That's what Angel Studios is. David was an excellent example of this because it got many, many things right. 1, it had a great story. 2, a great soundtrack. 3, it had a great cast. And 4, it spoke to the right audience. All you have to do is just listen to your audience. At the same time, I'm a very small channel. I have 81 subscribers at the time of filming this. I am trying to grow it into something big and beautiful. I don't have a production team or a marketing budget. So there's not really a serious reason why you should listen to me, because I'm also one of the only voices on YouTube, to my knowledge, defending Angel Studios these days. And I've been watching the industry for my entire life, so I can tell you with absolute certainty that we are living in a moment where the old model breaks and a new one is coming. And the question isn't, will Angel Studios succeed? They kind of already have. The question is, will Hollywood notice that and change? Now, I'm not super optimistic in that sense, but if they do, we're going to have better movies for both sides. And maybe we'll stop feeling so much at odds with our beliefs and we'll instead just get to enjoy art again. And that's the whole purpose of filmmaking, is we just get to see people make beautiful art. And that's the future that I'm at least hoping for, and something I hope that you're hoping for as well. So if you made it to the end of this episode, I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I would love if you would comment down below something that you learned today, something that you're now thinking of as a result. Do you like Angel Studios? Is that something that you would be considering subscribing to? Maybe what's one of your favorite movies on Angel? I would love if you would subscribe to this channel so you can see content just like this. I normally take a movie and review it, so this one is a little bit out of the ordinary. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope that you have a blessed day.